I'm very glad to be here today and to have the chance to give you an introduction to the difficult topic of digital sovereignty, especially when it comes up to cybersecurity. As you already heard, the topic of my speech today is without cybersecurity, there's no digital sovereignty. But what does this mean in depth? So, Germany is a high-tech country in which information and communication technology is of vital importance for all areas. The associated increasing dependence on information and communication technology of our economies, societies, and democratic processes also increases the risk of IT-based processes failing or attacks on the confidentiality and integrity of these systems. For the protection of our national economies, societies and democratic processes, the security of the ICT is of paramount importance for state and economy. Unfortunately, it can be stated that the threat situation in cyberspace remains at a high level and gets even more complex. And one special example is for sure the weakness in the Microsoft Exchange server, as we have seen during the last few weeks. Ransomware, for example, continues to be one of the greatest threats to companies, authorities and other institutions as well as to private users. Again and again, there are complete failures of computer and networks, but also of production systems, automobile manufacturers and their suppliers, various airports or airlines, but also small and medium-sized companies were attacked. For companies, this always means a loss of reputation and high economic damage. Community institutions have also been the target of repeated ransomware attacks recently. This also includes, for example, hospitals in Germany that are particularly challenged by the pandemic. The importance of our health system as critical infrastructure is clearly visible. Taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic shows that cyber criminals are quick to respond to socially relevant topics and trends and have no scruples about exploiting a social emergency. State and economy have to take care of it, legally, politically and organizationally. The federal government is aware of its responsibility. With the IT Security Act in 2015, we provided a building block for strengthening the BSI and for the resilience of critical infrastructures. In order to create and maintain a permanently high level of protection in regard to the growing threat situation, the legal framework must be continuously reviewed and adapted to new threats. With the draft law of a second IT security law, which is currently in the parliamentary process, we are adapting the legal framework to this situation. These are in particular the strengthening of the BSI with expanded tasks and powers for secure government networks, but also improvement for the protection of consumers, critical infrastructures and other branches of the economy. Operators of critical infrastructures are obliged to comply with IT security standards and to report IT security incidents. However, an expansion to other areas is necessary. Here we see an obligation, among other things, for the hardware and software suppliers of core components for critical infrastructures, as well as other companies in which there is a special public interest. This applies, for example, to the waste disposal, chemical and armaments industries, but also to the companies that make an outstanding contribution to value creation in Germany, in particular the large companies. By assigning consumer protection to the BSI as an explicit task, we are strengthening it as a neutral advice center for questions about IT and cybersecurity. In this context, it is planned to introduce a uniform and voluntary IT security label. This makes the IT security functions, especially of products in the consumer segment, visible and comprehensible to citizens for the first time. The IT security label acts like an always up-to-date electronic package insert. The BSI plays a central role in all issues relating to IT and cybersecurity in digitization. This is shown by the expansion of tasks and the growth in personnel in the recent years. The BSI received 150 additional posts with the 2020 budget. With the IT Security Law 2.0 and the newly added tasks and obligations, a further 873 positions for IT security are to be added to the BMI's division. I will now focus on digital sovereignty, which is indispensable for the success of a digital change. For me, digital sovereignty means that individuals and institutions can use the digital world independently and safely. Restrictions on the free choice of information and communication technology, products and services must be prevented. Where can these restrictions come from? Initially, restrictions can arise due to dependence on one or a few providers of technologies or services. Due to these dependencies, the providers can link the use of their products and services to conditions that they may impose on the customers. Such monopoly-like supply systems and the resulting dependencies and constraints must be prevented. But it is also not a solution to replace the monopoly-like provider systems with self-sufficiency. That means the self-chosen restriction on one's own products and services. Self-sufficiency ensures that there is no pressure from monopoly-like provider structures, but self-sufficiency reduces choice to own production skills. The compulsion can arise here due to the lack of alternatives. Self-sufficiency completely ignores free trade, which enables trading partners to choose between the best products and services worldwide, which is much more efficiently and effective. Where it makes economic sense, information and communication technology should always be obtained through free trade. The condition for digital sovereignty is self-determined ability to act. This requires the unlimited choice of technology and manufacturer, the availability of trustworthy products, and competitiveness of our own and trustworthy production. The following requirements must be met to achieve this. First, an expansion of the assessment competence for the use and security of ICT. We have to be able to make confident decisions. Second, we need the ability to develop hardware and software for future technologies and trends. To do this, we need to have trustworthy production capacities wherever they come from. Third, we have to develop the necessary regulatory requirements, for example, to enable the controllable use of safety-critical technologies. To this end, test procedures and techniques for continuous certification must be developed. It is particularly important to promote the use of open standards and interfaces in order to reduce or avoid dependencies. At this point, it becomes obvious that cybersecurity and digital sovereignty are imperative for the success of digitization. This is exactly what the Federal Ministry of the Interior is working on in a large number of different projects and initiatives. I will give you a few examples of this. We promote competitive, trustworthy information systems. Based on current innovative developments in hardware and software production with a focus on cybersecurity, competitive, trustworthy IT systems of new quality can be produced. That means by creating an ecosystem for trustworthy IT systems, hardware and software design, information and business relationships become competitively available. Another example is the Agency for Innovation in Cybersecurity, set up jointly with the Ministry of Defense, the Cyber Agency, which started its work at the end of 2020. With the Cyber Agency, we will promote and finance key technologies with high innovation potential. In this way, cybersecurity technology with importance for internal and external security in Germany and Europe. And third, BMI advocates the high security standards for 5G networks. In order to achieve this, technical requirements for the secure operation of the 5G networks will be prescribed by law via the security catalog according to paragraph 109 in the telecommunications law. But also we will prescribe trustworthiness criteria to the vendors of such ICT and 5G equipment to define for the first time trustworthy as a category that also can be maintained by regulation. For me, Germany has to take a leading role again in this important technology. In the interest of building digital sovereignty in 5G, it is necessary to create a strong industrial ecosystem for key technologies in the field of mobile networks in Germany and Europe. We therefore promote development, standardization, test procedures and new business models along the chain. Dear listeners, the measures presented to you, which are by no means final, are intended to give cause for action and serve as a common basis for discussion. I would be delighted to work with you to reach the next milestones in terms of digitization, cybersecurity and digital sovereignty. Thank you very much.